Welcome to another edition of the Tom Green Podcast. This week this is another preseason podcast. Boring. Well, not this time. Yes, this is another preseason podcast, but this is the dress rehearsal game of the preseason, so I had to bring on a guest. Tried to get our buddy Jared Bombway on the show, but unfortunately he works two jobs, which good for his paycheck, not so much for his podcast scheduling. So with that being said, we brought one of his best friends in, Matt Kloss. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
So before we get started with the Lions preview, I have two shout-outs to give out, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how Matt got to this show, and then we'll get rolling. So first shout-out is going to be to Lisa Arcori. She is the Comerica Park host that I met at the Tigers-Cubs game last night.
I saw that picture. That was a pretty cool picture.
So it was nice to have the whole field right behind
the field
us.
was right behind you. That was pretty cool.
So shout out to Lisa, as well as Craig Monroe, who we call Simo. In fact, that actually got a lot more likes than Lisa's picture did. That was something else. But they're both wishing me good luck in the big leagues, and perhaps I could get them on the show at some point. So shout out to Lisa, shout out to Craig. Now let's turn over to Matt here. So Matt was talking to me before the show about his stuff and how we got to this set here. So tell me about what you're doing, like all your screenplay stuff.
The word I've heard recently is polymath. I write my own screenplays. I'd like to direct these films. I'm also a musician, and I really want. I have a lot of artistic things kind of melding together at the same time, and I hope it all works out, because that's all you can really do.
So, unlike Squidward, you actually have talent.
I have a couple.
So, also tell us about like your. You were telling me before this program about some of this like screenplays and stuff like that.
The one that I'm working on right now. The working title is called Absolute Nobodies. It's a martial arts action adventure film.
It's not Absolutely Nobody. It's Absolute Nobodies. Let's get that right, guys.
The four main characters are just normal guys. Yes, they have. They grew up doing martial arts, learning martial arts, but they're but they're just normal guys, and some extraordinary circumstances put them on a odd path.
Okay.
The trailer. We're hoping to shoot the trailer this fall. It's just hard to get child actors, and the first scene has the characters as children. But hopefully I have the trailer up to be crowdfunded end of this fall, maybe towards the end of the fall.
And I will say for this show, at least for my own part, if you guys get it up and running and it's approved and everything, I can broadcast it on this show if you want.
Totally appreciate that, man.
So get a little advertising on both ends there. Speaking of advertising, Jeff and Brandon, our 3PS guys, want us to hit an ad before we get started with our Lions-Bucs preview, and that is Gary Poppins popcorn. Not Mary Poppins, Gary Poppins.
Gary Poppins.
Delicious gourmet popcorn delivered right to your door. Gary Poppins popcorn is changing the way the world thinks about popcorn, one kernel at a time. Try one or all of the 45 different flavors. Now, I will say I have not tried any of these flavors yet. I'm a fan of course, Garrett popcorn.
45? Did you say 45 flavors of popcorn?
According to my ad read, 45.
That's kind of amazing. I thought there was like 3. There's caramel, cheese, and regular, but apparently I'm gonna have to look this up.
Yeah, so I mean, from a guy that likes buttered popcorn and Chicago Garrett popcorn, I'm gonna have to try some of these flavors. So at some point, 3-point stance, I will try some of these flavors. With that being said, let's go to our Lions-Bucs preview here. So last week, Lions-Giants, you really didn't watch any of the game, did you?
I didn't get a chance to watch anything this past week, no. I've kind of fallen behind, but hopefully when the season starts up, I'll be able to stay in tune.
Thankfully, preseason really doesn't matter. Because if you guys saw my Tom Green podcast post last week, I had 3 takeaways from that game. First one being offensive line. Did they stay in Oakland? Did Raider Nation get to them?
hopefully that changes. But historically, the Lions, I mean, at least as long as I've been watching, and that's a pretty long time, the Lions have never really had an offensive line to point to. Even one offensive lineman since I was a kid that you can point to and go, he was pretty good. But that's pretty much it. And that would have been Circus. And how long ago was that?
Years and years ago. In fact, back in the Barry Sanders days, pretty much.
Yeah, he was around up until around Charlie Batch was the quarterback. And then
those were the days. Charlie Batch. Okay, so offensive line, where are you at? Now, second point. The defense is looking okay. There's a big problem, and this is the same problem with Brady Hoke's Michigan squad. They're on the field for way too long.
That becomes an issue, especially if your special teams is lacking. If you're on the field for a really long time, you get tired. There's no midpoint. The balance of offense and defense, rather, it's a little thrown off. If your special teams can't help you out at that point, you've completely lost one of your three legs.
Because when your defense is out there for way too long, it's because your offense is terrible.
Exactly.
And Detroit's offense is not, last week, of course, has not proven to be that offensive unit that they think they are. They've only scored 27 points in these two preseason games. Yeah.
How are most of them scored? I mean, even I didn't get to watch any of the preseason. Were they rushing? Were they
3 touchdowns and 2 field goals?
Oh, so we're back. Okay. Well, I mean, field goal can be used as an offensive weapon, but if it seems to be your safety net, that you might have an issue either rushing or passing that you have to address really quickly.
So, and then now to our third point is that now I was thinking going into the year that Matt Castle was going to be our backup because it seems like, Castle's been here for a very long time. Rudock made things interesting, I thought, in the fourth quarter of that preseason game. Driving the guys down the field, perhaps, and even helping with a touchdown at the end. It really didn't make things matter too much, but still, I thought made things interesting for the backup quarterback battle. Do you think that this is still Castle's job?
It should still be Castle's job. I'm not a fan of, I appreciate quarterback depth battles. I appreciate when two quarterbacks are giving their best for that starting position, but the guy who's been starting, unless he really is lackadaisical during that quarterback battle, he should still be the starting quarterback at the beginning of the season.
And even Patricia came out and said that even he's got to do a better job coaching. And if you hear that from your main man, of course, when we're talking about Matt Patricia, I got to have a number 2 pencil behind my ear. Of course, the podcast listeners can't really see it, but what I'll do is after I record this show, I'm going to take a selfie, both of us, with this number 2 pencil behind my ear, so that you guys can, so I can prove to you guys that yes, I did wear number 2 pencil. Which I talked about Matt Patricia.
Matt Patricia, I believe, got a little worried there once he took the job. Okay. They lost the Super Bowl. He was coming to Detroit. Things were really looking up for him for going from one position, getting kind of a promotion, and then I think it got a little real for him when he got to Detroit and he saw what he was working with, and it was going to be a tougher road than kind of being behind Belichick and having that a bit of ease, a cushion, because Belichick was there.
Right. And Bob Quinn is of course, a New England Patriot guy, so he's going to try his hardest to make this squad look like that of New England's, which we know that there's still a ways to go before we get to that.
Quite a ways.
But, of course, Week 3 of this regular season will be a big test of that as Detroit plays New England at home on Sunday night.
Yeah, we'll go to Buffalo Wild Wings and watch that together. Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan. Because I will probably be hitting 2 Lions games this year, but that will not be one of them.
It might not be worth the money. Just stay at home. Watch it.
Because I actually went to Lions Patriots last year during the preseason, so I got to see Brady throw a pick.
That's kind of cool.
It's
a rarity.
I can actually tell people that I saw Tom Brady with my own 2 eyes throw a pick. And Tom Brady's my guy, Michigan man.
Yeah.
Michigan man. Bo Schembechler said Michigan men will coach Michigan. I say Michigan men will support Michigan men.
No matter what, I always stay behind Michigan artists and athletes, and I know you're more of a football guy, but like shout out to Day Day. You're on a roll right now, brother, and I know we haven't seen each other in a while, but I'm proud of you.
You know, when I actually decided to expand these shows, my first guest on the NBA show was Fredarius Jackson. We also call him Fred Jack.
Mm-hmm.
He played He played at Saginaw High with Draymond for a year.
I played against Draymond. I played for Arthur Hill.
Oh, okay. So we got a little Saginaw High Arthur Hill rivalry going on here.
There
on
was
the
a
show.
time, but like we're all adults now, and he's doing great things, and I couldn't be more proud of him. I'm also really close with the Jackson family from Buena Vista, so Tori is actually a really close friend of mine, and his brother Corey.
We might have to get that man on this show because I got Kevin Marshall on this show from Bridgeport.
Yeah.
So that might be my next step.
Yeah,
Tori Jackson.
I actually
not quite Tori Petrie. Now that'd be something else.
I actually
and I've kept trying on that, but that day will come. But Jackson first.
I kind of did a little part-time assistant coaching with Tori at what's the name of that school again?
John Glenn.
John Glenn. Yeah.
That's unfortunate. You're in Garber territory.
Well, what happened? they moved up to A and into the SVL, and
might be a mistake, but let's leave that to the local crowd.
And I believe in Tori because he had a long-term plan. He started 4 sophomores, and the only reason you would start 4 sophomores is that in the future you feel like these 4 guys are going to be your guys to carry you to another level later on. And they all, even though you saw a lot of rookie mistakes and a lot of things that a younger guy would do at that level.
I was glad that Garber beat him. I'll say that, but that's just because I'm the main Garber man.
You're the Garber guy. I know, but in the next hopefully 2 years, this year, next year, you're going to start to see really cool things happen out of that gym, and I'm looking forward to it. They have really talented kids and kids who really care about whether or not they look good, even if they win or lose.
Now, I bleed Garber blue till I die, but I'd love to see Glenn beat Saginaw High or Hill once. That'd be something else.
That's not going to happen because it's a whole different game.
Yeah.
See, it's not basketball how most places play basketball in Saginaw. I grew up playing basketball in Saginaw, and I was usually the only white guy in the gym. But like, you got to be able to run. That a defensive rebound comes down, you're not waiting. You're not defending the guy. You're gone. And I didn't usually have the athleticism to hang full games, but you got to be smart enough, and you got to know how that game's played. And Tori does, because that was his game.
Yes,
he was the point guard that if he caught the defensive rebound, he was still beating everybody else back to the other side of the court.
I had actually went to the state quarterfinal 2004, Jordan Bitzer against Tori Jackson, USA versus.
Go ahead and ask him about how. Go ahead and talk to him about that game when he comes. He'll be able to fill you in.
So definitely tag Tori Jackson in this if you can. So definitely, very nice little off-topic chat there. But that's actually part of what podcasts are. No. Is we can just go completely off topic, and it'll be totally fine because either my listeners will listen to it or they can just skip ahead to the next segment.
And hopefully the people that follow me and follow my artistic exploits, the ones that I know a lot of them are sports guys, especially some of the people that are going to be helping me out with my film coming up are all big sports guys, and they'll definitely probably give you a listen right away.
Yeah, well, I might have to have you make a little mural of myself with all of those girls and all the guys that I've met throughout the years.
Yeah, I could do that. I mean, I have somebody else who'd be better at that. It's right over there, my girlfriend. But
gotcha.
But most of the things that I do are either on paper, like written word, or in motion. She's the artist.
Gotcha. So before we actually hit what we're going to see in Lions-Bucs, I'll hit one more ad real quick, and that is we're talking about the Fat Jack Sports Service. If you play games against the spread, Whether it's for a weekend, a month, or all season long, you will win with the Fat Jack. Sign up now and take advantage of his Las Vegas guarantee. Follow his system, you will turn a profit, or he will fly you and a guest to Las Vegas for the Super Bowl. Call 1-800-298-1383 or go to fatjacksports.com. Tell Jack we sent you and get a special freebie.
That's interesting. It's like bet insurance.
Yeah, I may actually have to try that.
Does he cover fights? Does he cover the UFC, man?
Unclear of that, but I will actually check that within the next day or so.
Do that.
And
let me know. I might take him up on it.
I might have to get me up on this. And believe it or not, Jeff and Brandon actually gave me 4 reads from last year. I just printed that all out myself because they were getting behind on the reads. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to look at this myself, and then I see all this. It's like, wow, very interesting. So, Lions-Bucs. Back to that topic. Now, for the first 2 weeks of the preseason, I previewed the depth charts from each team. So I've already previewed the Lions from week 1. And Oakland's from week 1, of course. Giants from week 2. So I'm going to preview the Bucs first stringers for week 3. Since this is the dress rehearsal game, you're going to see a lot of these guys out for probably the first half, maybe the first drive of the second half, but for sure you'll see these guys for about 30 minutes. So starting in order offense, we got Deshaun Jackson on the left side, Cameron Brate tight end. Your line goes Donovan Smith, Ali Marpet, Ryan Jensen, Caleb Bennock, DeMar Dotson, your tight end O.J. Howard, and on the right side, Mike Evans, wide receiver. Jameis Winston, famous Jameis, your starting quarterback. Peyton Barber, your running back. And before we get going with the defense, Tampa Bay is one of those surprise run teams. You would think that they would pass to Mike Evans a lot. They actually had run it with Martin before.
They have surprised us with running backs that we didn't think were going to be good and that have been fairly consistent. Like I remember they had a really small guy in the early 2000s. What was his name? And
Rondé Barber? Not Rondé Barber.
Not Rondé Barber.
That was a defensive back.
Yeah.
Work done.
Work done. When he first came into the league, there was a lot of knock on him that he was going to be too small. He wasn't going to be, and he ended up having this really squirrely style that worked in Tampa Bay, and it was fun to watch.
And how I confused Barber with Dunn was I remember seeing, as you mentioned that, I remember watching tape of the 08 Bucs-Lions game where we had a 17-0 lead to start out. Rondé Barber's got 2 today!
Right. And then,
vintage Warwick Dunn!
Right. And then that could have been a cross with Tiki, who was a running back also.
Tiki Barber for the Giants.
But yeah, they are a sneaky run team, and historically they've done these really odd, squirrely little run plays that'll catch you off guard, misdirections, and
so Tampa Bay running backs are actually a sneaky fantasy play, kind of like Lamar Miller. A lot of people don't like Lamar Miller, but he can give you 100 yards if
consistently.
Yeah,
and it might not look like a lot in one individual game, but over the course of a season, you look at it and realize that consistency might be more than an up and down valley player.
And a lot of people in my fantasy league, and I'm going to talk about it next week on my fantasy show. A lot of people criticize me for having Breeze being my franchise quarterback, but you can't argue with 4,500 yards every season, 12 touchdown passes every season.
You know, I don't see how anybody would argue with you having Breeze. I've never had a problem with Drew Brees. I honestly think he's a future Hall of Famer just because of his consistency. He's always been good. I don't even think he's getting a little on in years, and he still hasn't lost a step or lost a little bit behind that ball at all.
So yeah, Tyler Jacobs, Drew Brees is good. Now to the defense for Tampa Bay. Your end, Vinny Curry. Your tackles, Gerald McCoy and Bo Allen. Your right end, JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul. Always sponsored by the Of Glove. Your linebackers, Adarius Taylor and Quan Alexander, Levante David. Your corner of Vernon Hargraves, which Jim Harbaugh in Michigan torched in that Buff beat-up Citrus Bowl, if you remember that. Brent Grimes, who had a one-handed interception against Calvin Johnson in the Detroit-Miami game. And your safeties of Chris Conte, who Aaron Rodgers famously burned in the 2011 or 2012, I think it was.
2012.
Yeah, when both teams were like 8-6-1 or something like that. It was crazy. and Justin Evans, your other safety. Your special teams, your punter Brian Anger, place kicker of Chandler Catanzaro, might be a little better than Roberto Aguayo, holder Brian Anger, long snapper Drew Ferris, place kick or punt returner Adam Humphreys, and kick returner Jaquiz Rogers.
That is one thing that has always been questionable in Tampa Bay is a place kicker that will always give you consistent results. They've had a problem with that over the past few years, and Catanzaro is their shot at fixing that right now.
And if we remember Arizona-Seattle 2 years ago, I think it was, the game that ended 6-6 in a tie, both Hauschka and Catanzaro missed chip shot field goals.
They were less than 25. They had to yes, I believe the one that Catanzaro missed was only like 22 or something.
Yeah. And then Hauschka misses his, and then just Catanzaro puts on his cap, and he's like, all right, this game is over. Let's get out of here.
You just saw him cracking a beer and putting it down on the sideline like, that'll be there when I come back.
So that's your Bucs depth chart for string preview. What do we... So, of course, the big question is, what are we expecting from this dress rehearsal game?
I try to keep my expectations of the Lions low. That way I don't get hurt because I love them. Like, I'm a Detroit fan always. I'm a Michigan boy till I die. But, I want them to win. I don't hope for a turnaround in one game. I'm going to give Patricia the same benefit of the doubt I've given everyone else that's come into that position, and hopefully he finds a spark, a je ne sais quoi that puts the team together, that gets something positive going in the future.
Now, last year, of course, I went to the dress rehearsal game, Lions-Patriots, but of course it's the Patriots.
I remember that.
And we held them to a Steven Gostkowski field goal right at the end. The Patriots won that game. Now, of course, again, it really doesn't matter because Detroit finished 9-7 just out of the playoffs. New England had lost the Super Bowl.
Which I still feel like 9-7 isn't that bad. We were just in a division where we had the Packers. We were in a division where we had a Bears team that decided they wanted to play a little bit. And even though they weren't any better or worse team than we were, they foiled us. They gave us a drag.
And of course, let's not forget the Vikings.
Yeah.
Cody Klantz will punch me in the face if I don't mention the Vikings. If we mention the division.
Well, like, I'm just saying, like, our division was fairly good. Maybe not compared to other divisions who were fantastic in the league last year. Like, there was whole
AFC
divisions.
East, even though you have the Patriots, the Bills were a playoff team.
Right. The whole AFC East was a decent division last year,
and even the Jets were supposed to go 0-16. In fact, I had thought they're going 0-16.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky Whitehead gets hurt, they're going 0-16. Right. They went 5-11. They actually looked okay through the first 6 weeks of the year.
And yeah, that's what I'm saying. The talent in the league in recent times, draft classes on a bit of an uptick. It's kind of fun to watch. And I'm hoping our division stays as exciting as it was last season, because it was fun to watch. Lions playing the Bears, Lions playing the Vikings. Anybody could have come out with it on any given Sunday, and that was kind of the fun of Lions football last year. Yeah,
and people forget that this division might have 2 playoff teams, and perhaps, of course, dare I say it, maybe 3.
It's a possibility. I mean, the Packers are always right there. Like, you can almost put your money on the Packers in the playoffs every year. The Vikings were fantastic. You and I, as friends, can hope the Lions stay in that standing also.
And another point I should mention: tell me another team besides New England, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, perhaps Minnesota, and Seattle that finished with a winning record in consecutive seasons.
Didn't Arizona do it a couple years ago?
Maybe.
When they had Fitzgerald?
They still have Fitzgerald.
Well, I mean, when he was a younger Fitzgerald.
They might have.
He's lost a little bit of speed now, and he doesn't quite get up as high as he used to. But I think I think they did late 2000s, but right before 2010s maybe.
Still, that was a long time ago.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
You don't see that type of consistency in the NFL. You'll like perhaps the Browns this year, 0-16. They could perhaps finish 6-10, 7-9. But still, 2 consecutive winning seasons in the NFL is not easy.
It's not a thing you see on a regular basis, no.
Except, of course, for the Patriots and the Steelers.
Right.
And you'll see. I believe you'll see the Jaguars this year.
The guys from Boston are going to listen to this and be like, "What are they talking about? Like,
what are they talking about? What about my khakis? Or khakis? No khakis.
Khakis."
Had to give the little Bostonians a little accent there. But back to the third preseason game. We obviously know the Patriots are better than the Bucs.
The Patriots are better than the Bucs. Yes.
So hopefully Detroit will win this dress rehearsal game. But let me also mention, because Jordan Bennett is listening to us and thinking, Tom, you're nuts. Well, I told him, look at the Baltimore dress rehearsal game 3 years ago.
I see.
That was probably the worst dress rehearsal game I've seen from the Lions in many years.
If we're looking at it in the sense of getting ready for tougher teams than the Bucs, a loss might be a helpful thing. You learn more about yourself as a team from a loss than you do a win. So if they do lose to the Bucs, we can't look at it as, oh no, here we go again. Maybe some things are seen, some fixes are made early when they need to be made rather than later.
And my point was going to be when they got smoked by the Ravens, they still made the playoffs that year. That was, I believe, their 11-5 year.
Yes.
And of course, unfortunately, they got screwed on a call that was enforced and then picked up. That's another thing. How do you enforce a penalty and then, no, it wasn't a penalty, we'll pick it up? Because that's literally what happened in Dallas.
Yeah.
They enforced the penalty, then picked it up. Now, if they just picked it up without marking the yardage, I'd have been like, all right, perhaps that was a bit of BS, but at least you didn't go out and enforce it. No, they enforced this penalty.
Yeah.
And then they said, no, that was wrong. We're going to pick it up. Wow.
It kind of seems like at a certain point you have to do one or the other, or you're just being unfair to one particular team. But I might be biased.
Keyword is might, and we're correct.
Maybe.
Perhaps both of us might be. So, quick little score prediction on this game. Now, of course, score doesn't matter, but I did that for the first 2 games. So, how do you think this game will go?
21-14 Lions.
You think 21-14 Detroit?
Yeah.
I'm going to say 27-24 Detroit.
Yeah.
Closer game, a little higher scoring, but again, preseason really doesn't matter that much.
Not that much. it would be nice to see some sparks, something cool, maybe something we don't expect out of Patricia's Lions. But if not, we can still support them in coming into the regular season regardless.
And plus they'll have a Monday night tilt with the Jets to start the year, so that should air quotes be a win. But of course we'll see how things shape up for week 1, which hopefully I'm going to try my best to go to that one. Because Monday Night Football week 1, 7:00 game, it's the only game that's going to be on around, so may as well give it a shot. So with that being said, before we tap out, I should promote next week on this Tom Green Show, 2 big ones. We got a Michigan Notre Dame preview coming up, and I brought in his name is Ben Belden from the Under the Dome podcast. If you ever listen to that, I still have yet to listen to it, but I'll probably listen to it before I get him on the show. But he's one of the big Notre Dame football analysts out there, so I recruited him for the show, as well as our fantasy football preview. And I brought in a fantasy football pundit from California for that one. Robert Wilson is his name, at the FF Gator. And I'm excited to have him analyze my teams on this show, which I've made a couple of trades since I asked him for the show. What I'll do is I'll send him my final lineup like 24 hours before the show, and then we'll get going with that. So 2 big ones coming up for
That's
next
pretty
week.
Cool. And if you're doing a Notre Dame thing, I'll try to connect you and T-Jack because this is alma mater.
Oh yes. Yes.
So I'll see if he can get you guys talking about that.
Sure.
I don't watch college basketball with T-Jack unless it's the tournament because he's all Notre Dame till he dies.
The 2 versions of Mike Bray, clean shaved Mike Bray, facial hair Mike Bray.
Right.
There is a huge difference between those two, and I'm sure Tori Jackson can attest to that, having seen it in person.
Right.
So, 2 big shows next week. Of course, my last question for you, is there anything else that you would like to add to this wonderful Tom Green podcast?
Keep an eye out for the Absolute Nobodies trailer. Hopefully the end of this fall we can drop it to be crowdfunded so that I can shoot the whole film. I'm going to try to release a couple short stories. Try to put a couple short stories out for free to get people kind of seeing how I write and how things look that I do.
Now, short stories, this isn't like the 10-page poems that I was forced to read in English class. This is just like a 5-minute read, or what is
a short story? Something like Stephen King is most famous for short stories, where you'd think of them as being it's an entire story told in about 5-6 chapters of a regular book.
Okay, so a little longer than like a 10-minute read. This
right.
is something
you can
have
still
to
establish
take.
a full story, but it's not going to take you an amount of time to read. You probably read it in one day.
Okay.
And then, there's that, and hopefully soon, I have my fingers crossed, I get a musical project going soon, and that would be cool, just some fun, just guys who get together, we might play some cover tunes, just start out, have some fun.
One suggestion I have for that, make sure Jared Bombly does not sing.
Oh, he's fantastic.
He really is?
What are you talking about?
Seriously?
Songbird of our generation.
He's going to want to punch us for that, but we had to mention that. So, well, Matt, thanks again for coming on this show.
Thank you, Tom.
Friday night, 8 o'clock, Lions-Bucs. I will actually be at Garber doing the Garber games there because Garber's playing Boyne City, so I'll be watching this game on some DVR, and then I'll have some analysis for that next week. So, for Matt Kloss, this is Tom Green. This has been the Tom Green Podcast. Be sure to spread the word out about his stuff, Absolute Nobodies, and the Tom Green Podcast. Thanks again.